Are you aware of the vice presidential debate that's happening tonight?
No, I'm not aware. I probably should be.
So, JD Vance and Tim Walz are debating tonight.
Yeah, JD. I read his book in
Really?
middle school. It's very
Oh my
interesting.
goodness. How was it?
So the couch thing, that was kind of weird. Reading that as a middle schooler.
Yeah?
Um, but he did make some fair points in that book about, what was it, from Appalachia, right? So a lot of it was about having, well, he didn't really call them lazy. He just said they have to stop feeling bad for themselves and just really get their stuff together
Yeah.
and just, and I agreed with him on that. But then the other half of the book was just kind of him shaming his people. And one of the funny things that I found out was that his mom was a drug addict. And I think one of the pharmaceutical companies that made the drug that his mom got hooked on, he's taking donations from them.
Really?
I think, I'm not sure
That
if
would be
it's
crazy.
true. I'll have to research that more, but that's what I've heard.
That would be really
Yeah.
interesting.
And then Vance, wait, JD, what's the other one? Waltz. I think he's a really really cool guy, but like, of course, people said he got the DUI, and that was like when he was 18, I
Ages
believe.
ago, yeah.
So people change, and then the whole thing with like his service, I don't know, like, if it's, I can't find real information on that, so I don't have anything to speak about that.
I'm pretty well versed in
Okay.
that area. I can explain that
Yeah,
to
could you please?
So, he was in the National Guard 24 years. He was in for a long time. And so he was enlisted, so he was not an officer. He was in his time, he rose the ranks pretty high. So what it seems to be was he was an E8, which is the second highest enlisted rank you can be. And then the Army does this thing where they're like, all right, you're not this rank. We can't promote you to this rank right now, but we need you to act as this rank right
Yeah.
now. So they'll have, say, a sergeant first class, an E7, acting as an E8, but he's still an E7, right? That seems to be what happened with Walz, is he was acting as an E9, but he was only an E8. And then in some of his speeches, he's claimed that he was an E9, even though he wasn't officially an
Yeah.
E9. So that's kind of where the confusion
And then I
stems
heard
from.
there's something about his like deployment. Yeah.
Yeah,
What was the whole
so-
case with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you could technically, I think it was Enduring Freedom that he was in, but he was deployed to a non-combat zone in Italy.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are saying
Well,
like that's stolen valor.
They're both desk jockeys, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure JD didn't.
I have no idea as to JD. I haven't looked into his.
Yeah.
He was in the Marines, but
Yeah,
I
I heard
don't.
about
I
that.
didn't follow what he actually did.
I think he was I don't think he was, but I heard that he wasn't. I don't think he was in the combat zone.
Yeah, I think he
so.
went to Iraq.
Okay.
But I'd have to look into that more
Yeah.
too. I just followed more of the Walz
Yeah.
sides because he was National Guard, and I just kind of found that more interesting. So tonight, what are you expecting out of this debate?
What time is it again?
It's like 8.
Hey,
I
so
don't
yeah,
even
I'll
know,
be
man.
at soccer practice, so I
Soccer
won't be
practice?
watching
Yeah.
it. I'll just be scrolling through TikTok and watching the highlights.
Most people I've talked to are not aware that this is happening.
Yeah.
Do you think this will have any effect on the election?
Honestly, a lot of my friends are far right leaning, and a couple are pretty moderate. I'd like to say I'm moderate, but for the far right leaning friends, I don't think it really matters to them because they're already decided last year, regardless of what happens. And then the whole thing with like the assassination attempts on Trump, just that just makes them want to vote for him more. They're like, oh, the CIA wants to kill him, crap like that. It's just whatever. But for the moderates, I think it's really big for them.
Okay.
Yeah, people like me.
So, what do you think Tim Walz will hit most on?
Tim Walz. I don't know. I haven't really been paying attention to him that much. But if I'm guessing, I think a big one is immigration. That needs to be talked about, honestly.
And then what do you think JD Vance's biggest topic will be?
I don't know. I haven't really paid attention to him either. I've just seen like the clips of him like acting weird and stuff like that.
Do you think both vice presidential candidates will just kind of echo the presidential candidates, or do you think they'll have different?
Yeah, so I think Waltz, when you compare him to his upbringing with Kamala, small town guy, middle of nowhere pretty much. Kamala, where was she born? I think she was
California?
a city girl,
Yeah.
stuff like that. So I think he's going to talk to the more small town folks and try to convince them. Because I think that's probably why she brought him in, to get the more moderates and the right-leaning voters.
I have heard that from quite a bit of students, is that they feel like Kamala Harris made a much better choice in Tim Walz just because of the way, like, he's politically savvy.
Yeah.
He's more of a people person. And I've heard from a lot of younger people that JD Vance kind of gives off weird vibes.
Yeah. Like, so with Trump, this election's really important. We have both sides remote. We're like more divided than ever. Trump, I think JD Vance was a horrible pick because you're advertising more to the far right side when you need to bring in the moderates. So JD Vance was not a good pick for him, I believe.
Absolutely, you can put that too in the context. At that point, during the Republican National Convention, that was right after the Trump assassination attempt,
Yeah.
the first one. And Biden was still in the race at this point. So I think Trump's logic behind that was really, well, Biden's not dropping out. The
Yeah.
DNC's in a couple of weeks. I'm just going to choose a guy for governing and not even try to reach out to more people, because he was polling very well at that point.
A lot of my Republican friends are like, yeah, I mean, if Biden drops out, we're screwed.
Yeah.
A lot of them are voting. Like my roommate, I'm not gonna say his name, but he, after that last debate with Trump, he's like, oh my God, no, I'm voting Kamala now. So
Now that Biden's not in the race, a large amount of attention has been brought to Trump's age. How do you think that plays into all this?
yeah, I mean, they were doing the same thing to Biden. I don't think it's fair to do it to him. So I think age doesn't matter. But with Biden, it was just his mental capacity. You could just tell it was not it.
Do you think Trump is having a mental decline?
Yeah, I can tell. The last debate, when you're watching those clips, he seemed that he lost his. Can I say it on here?
Absolutely.
He lost his shit. Yeah.
It is interesting. You look back to like 2016, and Trump is Trump. But this Trump seems a little bit tired, more tired.
Yeah,
do you see that?
Yeah, 2016, I remember he was like the big guy, the rallying cry behind the Republican Party. I mean, he still is a guy of the Republican Party. It's just, I don't see people like, you look at his, not his campaigns, what do you call it? Where they speak to people.
His rallies?
Yeah, his rallies. It's just kind of dead.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you think that's an energy issue with Trump, or?
I think it's a mix of energy and just people just like, oh, he's saying the same stuff again and again. And the same thing can be said for Harris, not energy-wise, but I watched a couple of her rallies and there was just like repeating the same speech.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not going to watch this.
What would you like to see each candidate look toward? Like, what policies matter most to you?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of it, I think we should work on fixing our country first before worrying about other countries per se. Like immigration's a big one for me. I think I'm a first-gen immigrant here. I came here legally. I think the borders need to be shut down because there's a crisis happening at the borders. And that needs to be solved. Abortion's a big one for me too. I believe women have the right to do whatever they want with their bodies, but to an extent. I think that's what both parties need to find a middle ground on. There has to be, I don't know the science behind it, but you can't just be aborting babies carelessly. And there has to be like a time period that they both need to agree on. And then also, what was the other topics that we could talk about? economy. I don't know. I'm not really educated on that.
Do you think groceries are too expensive right now?
No, I think they're perfectly reasonable, honestly. I mean, I work a job, I'm able to afford it. A lot of the people that are complaining or just don't have jobs. So that's that.
Valid point. I think that's all I have.
Oh
I
yeah.
appreciate your
Appreciate
insight,
you.
brother.
Yeah, no problem.
It was very awesome.
Yeah.